There is a certain kind of person who cannot stop. Not physically, they can sit perfectly still, they can smile, nod, hold a conversation and look completely fine from the outside. But inside, their mind is running at full speed, analyzing, replaying, predicting, questioning, and the moment one thought finishes, 3 more are already waiting in line. Most people look at this and say, "Oh, they're just an overthinker." But that word is too small for what is actually happening, because this is not just a habit. This is not something they chose. This is a specific psychological experience that changes the way they see themselves, the way they feel emotions, and the way they move through the world. Today we are going to go inside the mind of someone who thinks too much and understand exactly what is happening in there. The first thing you have to understand is that their mind never truly rests. For most people, when nothing important is happening, the brain relaxes. It drifts. It daydreams softly. But for someone who thinks too much, the brain uses every quiet moment as an opportunity to start a new project. A conversation from 3 days ago gets pulled out and replayed. A look someone gave them that lasted maybe 2 seconds gets analyzed from every possible angle. A decision they already made gets questioned again and again, even though it cannot be changed. Psychology calls this rumination. It is like a washing machine that keeps spinning long after the clothes are already clean. The machine does not stop because the cycle is finished. It keeps going because it does not know how to stop, and the energy cost of this is enormous. These people often wake up tired, not because they did not sleep, but because their brain worked through the entire night, even while their body was lying still. But where does this come from? Why do some minds work like this? The answer usually lives in the past. When a person grows up in an environment that felt unpredictable, emotionally unsafe, or emotionally chaotic, their brain learns a very specific lesson. The lesson is this: if you think fast enough and far enough ahead, you can protect yourself from being hurt by surprise. The brain of a child in that kind of environment becomes a scanning machine, always reading the room, always measuring the mood of the people around them, always trying to predict what comes next so they are never caught off guard. When that child grows into an adult, the scanning machine does not get turned off. It simply finds new rooms to scan, new people to read, new futures to predict and prepare for. What once kept them safe now keeps them exhausted. And here is what that exhaustion actually looks like from the inside. Imagine having 2 versions of yourself running at the same time. One version is present, going to work, making lunch, laughing at a video, responding to messages. But the second version is always slightly behind, watching everything the first version does and taking notes. That second version whispers things like, "Did you say that correctly? What do they mean by that pause? What if this situation goes wrong tomorrow?" This is what psychologists call hyperactive metacognition. The brain thinking about its own thinking. For most people, this metacognitive voice is quiet and occasional. For someone who thinks too much, it is loud and constant. And the cruelest part is that this voice often turns against them. It does not just observe, it judges. It tells them their feelings are too much, their reactions are wrong, their worries are irrational. So not only are they exhausted from overthinking, they are also exhausted from judging themselves for overthinking. This constant internal noise creates something very specific in their relationships. They become extremely sensitive to what is not being said. A friend takes slightly longer than usual to reply to a message, and their brain immediately runs through a list of possible reasons, most of them involving something they did wrong. Someone they care about seems a little quieter than normal, and they feel it in their chest before they even fully process it in their mind. They pick up on tension in a room that no one else has noticed yet. They hear the slight change in someone's voice before that person has even admitted to themselves that something is wrong. This is not paranoia. It is a deeply tuned emotional radar, and it makes them incredibly perceptive and incredibly tired at the same time. Because here is the truth about thinking too much. It does not come from weakness. It does not come from being broken. It comes from caring too deeply about getting things right, about understanding fully, about never being blindsided by pain again. The mind that thinks too much is a mind that is trying very hard to keep its person safe. But safety cannot come from thinking alone. No amount of analysis can make the future certain. No amount of replaying can change the past. And no amount of predicting can eliminate the possibility of being hurt. The mind that is always searching for certainty will always be searching, because certainty is not something the world ever fully offers. So what do people who think too much actually need? They do not need to think less. They need to learn how to hold their thoughts differently. Instead of believing every thought that appears, they can learn to watch thoughts the way you watch clouds passing across the sky. You notice them, you see them clearly, but you do not climb inside them and live there. They need to practice the one thing their brain resists most, which is allowing uncertainty to exist without immediately trying to solve it. Not every silence needs an explanation. Not every emotion needs to be analyzed before it is allowed to be felt. Not every worst-case scenario needs to be prepared for tonight. The people who think too much are often the most honest, the most loyal, the most emotionally intelligent people in any room. Their minds are not their enemy. Their minds are simply working overtime without being asked to rest. And the moment they learn to give that mind some grace, some permission to not have every answer right now, something shifts. The thoughts do not disappear, but they lose their urgency. The noise softens. And for the first time in a long time, the present moment feels like somewhere they are actually allowed to be. If you recognize yourself in any part of this, leave a comment with a thought that never seems to leave you alone. You are not too much. You are simply someone whose mind has never been taught that it is finally safe to slow down.